What's up, world? I am Thunder Thief, and today we are talking about track 12 on Past Amore. It's the last track on the album. This one's called Grateful. I turned 35 yesterday, and it was a weird weekend. Tried to go skydiving and found out that I was too heavy to go. So as of tomorrow morning, after I have this birthday dinner tonight, I'm hitting it hard and trying again in June. So my life is about to just change quite dramatically from all the comforts that I held on to during these last couple years, and I'm the heaviest I've ever been. But that moment when I found that out, literally at the skydiving place, I had 3 really good friends with me, 4, and also my girlfriend, who's a really great friend, but also I had these lifelong friends with me for my birthday. And in that moment of disappointment, I was able to turn it into an exhilarating and first time experience for a friend of mine who just stepped into my spot, who wasn't planning on going, and he got really energized by it. And we're going again in June. And I've been thinking a lot about that moment because I've been telling it to a lot of people, sharing that story. And there's a sentiment of disappointment. And I agree with that 100%. But there is this empowerment within this that is sort of coming to terms with how responsible you are for your own happiness. And I think that sentiment is something that I specialize in. I have been accused of being a relentless optimist forever, and I'm very proud of it. It's not stupid to believe that something good can happen out of anything. I think it's equal chance, good or bad. The starting point's obscured, but from that point, it can either improve or not, and I root for improvement. I wrote this song. It was one of the last ones that I wrote, and I knew that I needed something to end this cathartic release. The more I write and grow, I keep going back to the thing that I aspire to do the most is show what my heart sounds like. And I have lived my life heart first and brain second. And, that causes a lot of dissonant engagements, but there's a beauty in dissonance just as much as there is in more pleasant harmonies. And I wanted to really give praise to Diva, the synthesizer that had blown my mind open. And I wanted this song to not have any guitar intentionally, only have one kind of bass line, and to also be my third attempt at writing a 4 on the floor house style track, but in 6/8. So everything's subdivided by 3 instead of 4, and at a certain loop length, it all starts over, but it has this uneasy beauty to it. And on the tracks that I've tried to do in that style beforehand, they just never made it to the record. And when it came time, this passed the test. So I was motivated very much by Diva and just wanting to write mostly in that synthesizer and have it be the showcase piece. So this first set is this set of arpeggios that play off of each other. whole job is just to evolve throughout the song and be that comforting voice that you can always grip onto. In the spirit of starting new, I tried, after I wrote this arpeggiated part, to start with an instrument that I wouldn't think of first. And the toms were a pretty obvious choice. On a drum kit, I used to think about it like it was one instrument, but it's not. It is a collection. And the way that you treat certain ones in my mind is very different. So starting on one central part of it, but purposefully not engaging everything, was a cool way to go. So everything in the drums is inspired by the tom part. And those kick through most of the track too. Like in house music, that's just a standard thing that happens a lot, is there's a kick and a tom section, and there's the syncopation that happens within it that is just beautiful. So I built all of the drums around this tom part, and throughout the song just kind of bring different elements of it in, but this is what the drums sound like. And that came from knowing I needed a 4 on the floor kick and playing with some samples. And the thing about most of the samples that I was choosing from, these couple of loops, is all of those are in 4/4. So cutting it and making a 4/4 and making a 4/4 rhythm sit and fit on top of a 6/8 thing just takes a lot of playing around and experimenting and seeing what can vibe, what moments in these pieces that were not designed to do this can fit into this entirely new piece. I knew I was going to call this song Grateful very early, because if it's the last song, you have to finish with a positive note. You have to punctuate with something that's going to help push people past that. And this is the second time that I've done this in building records. Is on Happy Accidents, I called the last song of mine Forward, and it had that intention, that very inspiring, motivating type of pace and tonality. And Grateful is in the same spirit of moving forward and being capable, but this one was a lot more centered in remembering and in dealing with all of the shit that we all have been dealing with. It's funny how greatly COVID has affected the world, but it's not registering nearly as close as the death of my mother and just the massive death of loved ones in a short period of time. It's to me, that's a greater hurt and massive recalibration. And it takes a lot to just process that kind of trauma and getting into what kind of person you are and what do you want to do and be, and what does your life on this earth mean. All those questions are all internal. There's outside answers, but the truth is inside. And I had just this massive burst of clarity over the weekend with that skydiving thing. And I feel the best I've felt in years. I have so much to be thankful for, grateful for, and there's no sign of it wavering. I am living a life that is centered on developing my ideas and the ideas of the loved ones and the people around me that care about what I'm doing as much as I do. And the power in that inside is immense. And I think for the last few years, just in not achieving the growth that one would hope for, but it's growth nonetheless. That's all you can ever hope for. And to see what happens when the world hears what you can do, and when the world tastes what you can do, when the world experiences what you can do, it's an immensely gratifying feeling to be a reason that someone's day gets better. And that's what I exist for, is to be that positive potential out of any situation, to be foundational enough to earn trust and execute whatever needs to be done. And I think that is why the bass just came so easily to me. Is like, this is my nature. This is something that has permeated throughout my whole life. And I think I just lost grips with it for a little while in the chaos of everything, and I feel like it's back. And it's so serendipitous even that I'm recording the podcast for this last song for my album on the day after my birthday, and I've had this crazy experience that has just recalibrated my brain a bit. I feel inspired. I feel stoked. This next batch of noise that I have working is gonna, it's already coming out, and I feel great about tapping in to what's sounding from inside. And this bass line in this song reminds me of the fact that it was one of the last, the instrument had the last say. Usually with bass, it's maybe in the top 3 instruments that you go to, if you're doing chords or doing a melody, the bass line or the rhythm kind of comes in the next phase of that. So this was something that I wrote but didn't want it to be about it. And even to the degree that the key of this song made me tune my bass to A flat, and usually I have it tuned to drop D or standard, but to drop it down even to just a different tuning, I feel like guitars need time to be used to that. And oftentimes people have different guitars for different tunings and things like that, so I feel like it belongs on a different guitar. But I have made it a goal to have this instrument that is my end-all be-all for what I need for bass and guitar, and that is the whole point. So flexibility is inevitable, and I just tuned my bass down and started jamming along to what the synths and the drums were doing, and trying to find something that could be very serviceable. And it sounds like this. It's funny, every time I hear my bass soloed, I feel like you could put that underneath a hardcore punk type of track and work a breakdown around it, and it would be sweet. But that's not the kind of music that inspires me anymore. I was immensely motivated by that earlier on, but now it's something that fuels my voice instead of is something that I listen to for inspiration. The next parts that I folded in are all synth sounds that I developed in Diva, but I wanted them all to just be sitting in the back and servicing everything else and being there but not. And I started with this Rhodes chords type of sound. Then I added this angelic high note that I felt like was almost a light in the sky sort of thing. You just see the clouds breaking, and there's this sunbeam that rushes across. And I just listened to that loop for a long time, just smiling and kind of dancing around my studio, just feeling it. I think there's a lot about my music that's hard to put somewhere. It's got things that belong in a rock club. It's got things that belong in a dance club. It's got things that belong in your ears while you're riding. It's got things about it that are best heard in a living room while you're sitting down. Like, I think music has a place in every sort of situation, and it doesn't have to be the main motivator. It can be in the background and just be this playful little thing that just continues and grips and pulls you to the next form of conversation, or to the next part of a meal, or it's the next song at a venue while it's being played in front of you with a live band. Like, it exists everywhere and like does something to everyone subconsciously or right out front. The last synth sound that I added to this was this melody that came to me pretty fast. And as I was playing it along through the song and trying to find the spots that I wanted to play it, I just left the track recording from the beginning to the end. And I just played the melody where I thought it would fit. And just in one take, I played the whole thing from front to back. And there's mistakes in there. There's rhythmic mistakes. There's a couple of melodic mistakes. And that's the imperfection that makes it feel perfect. That word is so weighted, and it's insane for me to conceptualize like what actually perfect even means. It seems like everybody has a different version of it. And if we are part of this world instead of the world is part of us, then how can anything ever be perfect to you? And I just think that it's not about perfection. It's about aspiration and execution. And if you have enough of both, there's moments that just are explosive. And I like aspiring to that. And I will aspire to that, continuing throughout my life. The last thing this song needed before I decided to just let it go was having just a little bit of vocal underneath that's sitting with the synths mostly, but is sort of whispering. I was thinking about the feeling of this song and this record and how it is like this beautiful sadness that has some joy and hope residing within it. And I thought about what that would sound like to express that vocally. And here's what I came up with. It's such a weird sound and a weird way to say Yahoo. It's this intentional, quiet, almost like you've been crying for a while, but you're just coming out of it. Like I sort of envision the situation where you've just been crying, dealing with this thing, and you've got some friends around, and like it's that first friend to crack the joke that actually like makes you laugh through your tears and breaks that wall of sorrow. And that's the whole point of this song, is to imbue that emotion and to give you the time to breathe, to move forward. And thank you to anyone who has listened to this or my album or any of my music. It has been the most euphoric existence to have the time and the energy and the motivation to just continue to make noise the way that I want to hear it and the way that I want to make it. It's taught me so much about everything else in my life. And I think applying being an artist to every aspect of life breeds this just different perspective. Like, I don't believe that artists can't do other things. I mean, I think it's proven time and time again. I think we need more art in everything, need more artists in everything. And I'm the most confident in my abilities as an artist that I've ever been. And I'm just so excited to move ahead and show you guys the next amount of song and show everyone the next batch of noise that I have, and just continue this journey of here's what I made, world. What do you think? And to not be scared of their answer, and to not let their answer be the definition of what I do next. So I am so happy that I have reached so many ears, and I am so grateful that you have listened to anything I've ever done. I'll see you on the next release. This is Grateful.